In this video, we're talking about the latest Steam Deck update and what hints it has for the future. After that, we're going to talk about how Steam Deck gamers were accused of cheating when they weren't even doing it. And then I want other developers to look at what Square Enix just did and copy them. And finally, I don't get why this game doesn't run on the Steam Deck. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. It's essentially a podcast where I'm on camera. I run through all the biggest Steam Deck news stories every week. So if that sounds good to you, let me know by subscribing and setting your notifications to all. I'm just going to roll right into this first news story here because it's really interesting. So Valve has been on a little bit of a back burner, I would say, with the Steam Deck beta updates lately. It's been a little light on feature updates lately, I would say. They have done a couple cool things like increase battery life by up to 6% if you're playing older games. I talked about that in the last video if you didn't see it. It's definitely been a little light when it comes to new features coming to the Steam Deck, outside of small but nice things like, you know, they improved the battery life by up to 6 or 7% if you're playing older games and using the frame rate limiter because they messed around with the polling rate or something like that. I talked about it in the last video if you want to hear about that. But what I've been assuming is going on is that they're just all working on getting SteamOS ready to release on other platforms. That release date of the Lenovo Legion Go S, which will be running SteamOS 3.6 or whatever, will be coming up soon. So obviously they need to get it ready. And this new beta update definitely confirms that that's what they've been working on because they didn't really talk about it in the patch notes from what I can tell, but they've made some changes to the overall UI. So anywhere where it would kind of directly mention the Steam Deck, like as the only platform that actually uses SteamOS 3.0, they've basically gotten rid of that and made it more universal language. One specific example is if you try to run a game while another game is running, there's a warning that pops up and says, hey, Steam Deck's a strong device, but you know, it's not built to run Red Dead Redemption 2 and Dead Cells at the same time. Like we don't have quick resume or multitasking like an Xbox or your desktop PC. You can do it, but you're not going to want to do it. So in the past, it would be specifically related to the Steam Deck. Now it just says, don't do it. It also looks like they're switching up some of the iconography. So like if you see a little Steam Deck, like the little white text Steam Deck, it should change to whatever platform you're on, whether it's the Legion Go S or the ROG Ally, or they just removed it. I'm not really sure because I can't tell because I'm on the Steam Deck, but they're doing small things to make sure that if you install SteamOS on other platforms, you don't see iconography related to the device you're not playing on. Honestly, I would have just left it alone. I think it could have been a cool little psyop where like you're playing on a Legion Go S, you're kind of getting a little buyer's remorse because the Z2 chip inside of it doesn't seem to be that good. And then you see an icon for another little handheld that doesn't look exactly like the one you're playing on, but looks similar. So you go online, you type in SteamOS handheld and you find the Steam Deck and you go, man, I should probably pick that up. And then Valve sells their hardware, which makes them more money. I don't think they'd ever do that. And this is all just a sarcastic joke, so don't take it too seriously, but it could be a cool way to kind of just influence people to at least look up the Steam Deck because they don't do a ton of marketing. I was thinking about how I feel about this, and you know, I'd like to see a lot of focus going towards adding new features to the Steam Deck, but I really don't know how many left there are to add. They've been doing a really good job for the past 3 years, just keeping up with everyone's asks, wants, and needs when it comes to new features. They do a good job scanning the community to see what third-party tools people are using, and then they just bake them into SteamOS updates. You can also install Decky Loader if you want to go outside of what Valve has done officially, but like I genuinely don't think there's that much left to do. The only thing I'd really like to see is a clone of what PlayStation does where you can log into Apple Music or Spotify and run music in the background. I would love to be able to do that on the Steam Deck because the only Apple Music app you can use is Cider, which it runs through the web interface. It's like a new UI for the web interface of Apple Music. It works fine, but like I play my Steam Deck offline a lot. So I would love a way to have direct connection to other streaming platforms like Spotify or Apple Music. But yeah, again, outside of that, there's not that much I could really ask for, and I'd love to be surprised, but I think now is an okay time for them to kind of move on from doing these big feature set updates for the Steam Deck and focus on getting the operating system ready for other platforms because that's what I've been asking for years now. I'd love to be able to install the official release of SteamOS on my main gaming laptop just because I love the way it works. I know I can get it through big picture mode on Windows, but it's not really the same because you always have Windows popping up and annoying you even if it's in the background. It takes precedence over anything you're running at all times, and it just doesn't work as well as it does being this wrapper for the Linux distro that's installed on the Steam Deck. So I'd love to see them focus on getting that out the door, so I'm glad they are. But there are a couple of nice key features that they've added in with this beta, one being support for the 8-bit Do microcontroller controller. Not necessarily a controller I would use on the Steam Deck because it has a built-in controller, and also that thing looks like it's for children because it's so damn small, but it's nice to see them supporting other controllers. And then also, this is a change that I know I've asked for before on the channel, like a long time ago, but if you've ever played a game that has achievements that have progress trackers, so like, I don't know if this is even an achievement, but like if you're playing Red Dead 2 and you have to skin 100 animals, right, to get this achievement, every time you skin an animal, you'd get an achievement notification with a progress bar that says, oh, you've skinned 15 deer out of 100, and every time it happens, that like achievement window will pop up. So if you're in an area where there's a lot of deer spawned and you're arrowing a lot of deer and you're skinning them in rapid succession, that little achievement window gets kind of annoying. It doesn't happen in every game, obviously, unless they have it set up to do this, but they've fixed that so it won't bug the crap out of you when you're playing your games. Welcome change. I'm glad they listened to the community on that one. Okay, that's the beta out of the way. Let's talk about this cheating situation. We are 3 years into the Steam Deck's life cycle, and I did not expect the cheating situation to become as big of a problem recently as it has. We know that games like Battlefield 1 or GTA Online have been running into issues where they previously worked on the Steam Deck and allowed gamers who are on their Steam Decks to access the online modes in these games, but publishers like EA and Rockstar are going in and changing the anti-cheat to be a version that doesn't work on the Steam Deck, and their reasoning for that is that on Linux, a lot of people are cheating. They never specifically target the Steam Deck, they just target Linux as a whole, and then the Steam Deck gets thrown in there, because honestly, I feel like it would be too much work to really get cheats set up for GTA Online on the Steam Deck or Battlefield 1, so it's gotta be desktop users, but I've never seen a situation like the one we just saw with Path of Exile 2. So Grinding Gear Games has been doing updates regularly for Path of Exile 2 because it's in early access. They're building up to a big content release if you were curious, and the newest update kind of broke the game on the Steam Deck in the sense that when you would open the game, you'd get a notification that said, hey, we notice you're cheating right now. You can only do that once. This is your only warning. If you do it again, you'll get banned. So I'm glad that there is that firewall in place. You know, that is actually pretty nice to say, hey, we are detecting that you're cheating. Stop now if you want to keep your account and keep playing the game, or, you know, continue doing it, and the consequences are that your account will be deleted, which would suck. You'd lose all your progress and the whatever $60 or so. I don't know how much the game costs. However much the game costs, you're out of that if you get banned for cheating. And it is really good that that firewall is in place, like the warning system, because this notification wasn't just popping up for presumptive cheaters on the Steam Deck. It was popping up for everyone who was playing on the Steam Deck. And if you've checked that top 100 tracker on Valve's site, on the Steam store, you've probably noticed that Path of Exile 2 has been in the top 100, very high up on the list, basically since it came out. So that could affect quite a few people who are actively gaming on the Steam Deck at any given time. And the update came out pretty quickly. Grinding Gear Games basically said, look, it was an accident. Like, we know you're not cheating on the Steam Deck, so we're going to fix that in a new patch. So if you haven't played because of that weird message you were getting about your account being banned, look and see if there's a new update that addresses that specific issue. But I would personally wait until that's addressed for sure before logging back in, because theoretically you're already dinged once for cheating on their servers. And even if you're not, as someone who has a PlayStation channel and gets to talk about the PlayStation Network a lot, they say things are fixed, and half the time they aren't fixed for everyone. So I would just wait it out, wait till you see some patch notes, and if you see the Steam Deck issue has been fixed, take it as an okay green light to start up the game and get playing. Rolling right into the third news story here, I gotta shovel some praise on Square Enix because they're doing some inventive things on the Steam Deck that I think other developers should really pay attention to, and I can't believe Square Enix is the one I'm complimenting on this and not someone that I've loved for years like Capcom. Like, Square Enix has traditionally had terrible PC ports that don't run well at all and require mods. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, you needed to install a DX11 mod to make the game not stutter, and then when you'd actually get in the game, the graphic settings were resolution, textures, and shadows. It was literally those three things, and they never went back and fixed it, and they made people wait a year at least after the Epic Game Store release to play the game on Steam. So big step forward in the sense that they've actually made Final Fantasy VII Rebirth smaller on the Steam Deck. I'm not really sure what they actually took out. I was trying to research this, but the patch notes don't really say. I would guess personally that they got rid of some language files that people aren't using, or they utilized some tool on the Steam Deck to see what your system language is set to and just deleted everything else. They could have also gotten rid of the high and ultra textures because those take up a lot of room in a game's install size, but they did drop it pretty significantly. Before, the game was over 100 gigabytes, and now it's coming in just under 80. 1080. So it's still a big game, but if you've played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it is a big game. Like, it's a huge open world game with tons of different biomes, crazy flashy effects and everything. I feel like, you know, in a world where Call of Duty is like 300 gigabytes at this point in time, it just like, it sucks, but like 80 to 90 gigabytes feels like a little bit smaller than everything else. And I think it's cool that if you play it on your main PC, it'll be the full install of the game, but if you play it on your Steam Deck, it'll be a smaller install of the game. And it seems like Valve has implemented a feature where developers can have different forks for the Steam Deck specifically, and I'd like to see more developers take advantage of this, because if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth can do it, I'm sure there's plenty of other games out there that have extra crap and bloat thrown in that would make the install sizes smaller. It's not necessarily the biggest deal in the world because, you know, I think a lot of people, no matter what size Steam Deck they get, they either upgrade the SSD inside or get a big micro SD card. I've got a 1 terabyte SSD in mind plus the 1 terabyte SD card, so I haven't really had too much trouble with running out of space, but you know, I'll take any gigabyte I can get back because that's more games I can download to the device that'll just be there ready to play when I get a random spark of inspiration when I'm watching a show like Yellowstone and I want to play Far Cry 5. I'd love to have that game just installed and ready to go. So if they're reducing file sizes of games, that means I can install more games. So Square Enix is doing an uncharacteristically good job on their PC side of the fence, but Koei Tecmo, they've got some problems going on. So I've been waiting for Rise of the Ronin to come to PC for a year. I used my PlayStation Stars credit to get it on PS5 when it came out, and it just didn't run good, and it didn't look good enough to justify how poorly it was running. So I decided to put it back on the shelf because, you know, I didn't pay for it. I used rewards points, and I figured I'd either wait for the eventual PC release or some PS5 patches. It looks like it got patched on PS5 Pro, but when I saw it was coming to PC, I was holding out hope that it would be able to run on the Steam Deck, but it does not look like that's the case. Steam Deck HQ's got an article up going into the performance, and even at the lowest settings, you can't get 16 or 17 FPS on this game. Like, once in a while, you'll be able to run it at 30, but something is really hammering both the CPU and GPU in this game, and I genuinely don't get what, because if you go back and play Nioh or Nioh 2, they arguably look better than Rise of the Ronin, which is weird because Rise of the Ronin came out in 2024, but they also run a lot better. I know Nioh 2 is tied to the frame rate with the physics like the old Dark Souls PC release, but if you want to play it at 30 FPS, you can get away with it. I've tried it out on the Steam Deck before, and it's not really that big of a deal. So I was hoping that like that extra year of development time would kind of give them some, you know, opportunity to finish their game, because they released it unfinished clearly if it's running as poorly as it does while looking as poorly as it does. But I don't know what they were doing for the past year. It seems like they were just working on Ninja Gaiden Black 2 and Ninja Gaiden 4. So I'd love for this game to get patched, but if you look at the history of these Team Ninja games on PC, they just throw them out there and rely on the community to fix them. I think the worst offender of that is Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise or whatever it's called. You have to mess with like Process Lasso to get that game running correctly, because I guess it only uses 1 CPU core, and they've just never gone and updated it. I don't know, couldn't tell you why this is a problem that's continually endemic to Japanese developers, but it is a common trend. And now you've got games like Monster Hunter Wilds, which don't run at all on the Steam Deck. They need to figure this out. Like, I don't know what needs to happen, but they need to wake up, hire a satellite studio, not Iron Galaxy, please, and figure out how to get these PC ports up to snuff, because the whole reason a lot of people go to PC outside of console is because they want better frame rate and better graphics, and just continually, release after release, it seems like these games come out and the worst place to play them is either Xbox Series S because it's a reboxed Xbox One, or PC, which is insane because PC is awesome. So yeah, if you're looking forward to Rise of the Ronin like me, I hope they patch it. I doubt they will. I would avoid it on the Steam Deck, and Steam Deck HQ gets major bonus points from me for saying don't use frame generation. If you're input frame rate is 15 FPS and you're using frame gen to get it to 30, 40, or 60, it's not going to be a good experience. You're going to see artifacting. You're going to have insane input lag. I know people just, for some reason, there's a subsect of people out there who do not see input latency or frame rate. I think most people do, and it's just not a good situation to use frame generation, especially when your FPS input is that low. But yeah, last thing I want to do here is shout out my channel, Real Ones. It's a movie channel where I do deep dives into the history history of movies, the whole process of making them, and tell you cool stories that I'm very confident, not positive because I can't be positive, but very confident that you didn't know. Like, did you know that Nightmare on Elm Street was inspired by a real news story Wes Craven read in the newspaper about a kid who escaped Cambodia with his family and came to the United States, and then he started having insane nightmares where a monster would get closer to him every night, and when that monster eventually reached him, he died? I bet you didn't know that, and you wouldn't know that if you watch my channel Real Ones. It's linked in the description. I hope you check it out. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.